Fleets of specially chartered buses flocked down a West German highway towards the nation's capital, Bonn. They're carrying 750,000 angry trade union members, a voice of protest that has alarmed industrialists and fascinated international observers. These workers aren't making the traditional demand for higher wages. What they want is less work, a cut to just 35 hours a week. It hardly fits the cliched image of West Germany as the workhorse of Europe. But with 2 million unemployed, Europe's wealthiest nation hasn't escaped the recession unscathed. West German unions claim the answer to unemployment is a cut in working hours. A 35-hour week, they say, will create 1.5 million more jobs. The employers say the union claims are naive and, at worst, simply a tool for political disruption. They warn that shorter hours for the same pay will drive hundreds of companies out of business. And they add that the only jobs created will be for Germany's foreign competitors. The result, a bitter fight. Both sides seem determined to dig in for a battle that may reverse Germany's relatively calm industrial past and could threaten her industrial future. The 35-hour week campaign is being led by the metal workers union, IG Metall. With 2.5 million members, it's the world's largest union and Germany's wealthiest and strongest. It's also the union that has suffered most from the recent increase in unemployment. At just over 9%, Germany's unemployment rate is relatively low by European standards, but it's doubled in 4 years and is still rising. IG Metall say the answer is simple: reduce the working week from 40 to 35 hours, thereby reducing unemployment by 75%. Union spokesman Herr Marin says the plan is foolproof.
The main reason is that our analysis has proved that the economic situation, especially the process of rationalization, will lead to an even higher unemployment in the years to come than we have today, and that economic growth will not be able to cope with that unemployment. So we think that the reduction of working time is a necessary contribution to fight unemployment.
The gloom of the unemployment office is a problem everybody wants to solve. But the employers, backed by the government, say IG Metall's arithmetic is ill-informed. The employers say that only 75,000 of the nation's 2 million unemployed have the skills to do the kind of work the metal workers say will be created. Many of Germany's unemployed are guest workers, foreigners who flocked to the country when there was a great demand for unskilled labor. Common market regulations say guest workers can't be told to leave. In fact, the industrialists warn that IG Metall's proposals are so clearly a recipe for higher costs, lower competitiveness, and therefore more unemployment, that there must be a more sinister side to the union's demand. Hans-Peter Stiel, the employer's negotiator, can only explain the union's demands as a deliberate and provocative challenge by what he calls a left-wing labor movement to a right-wing government.
That for them it is a political issue. It is an issue that is decisive concerning power in this country. And it is also a kind of a fight against our present government. The German unions, the IG Metall, are pretending that by reducing working time, we could solve our unemployment problem. They forget that reducing working time and keeping wages and salaries at the same level, we have a very substantial increase of our cost, which in our case go up as far as 14.3%, and some more additional cost when we look at the empty machinery at that time, which makes it to a level of about 18%. In addition to that, we also are facing wage and salary increase of 3.3%, and that makes it a total of over 20%, which is, according to our opinion, by far too high, and which, of course, will not decrease unemployment, it will increase.
The men on IG Metall's picket lines, however, counter such claims by insisting that theirs is a campaign against the curse of unemployment. Caught in the middle are millions of other trade union members who have yet to be persuaded by the IG Metall hardliners to join the fight. The German economic miracle has become a post-war legend. For decades, labor and management have worked closely together with the common aim of boosting productivity and profit. After the defeat of World War II, hard work seemed to help restore the nation's morale. Financial success became a goal for many West Germans. As the country got back on its feet, the work ethic endured, fostered by the highest wages in Europe and the lowest unemployment. Like Japan, West Germany concentrated on winning the post-war battle against industrial recession. But some young West Germans are coming to the conclusion that the god of economic growth is no longer supreme. It sounds a sweeping generalization, but it's proved in both social surveys and political realities. In Parliament, the ecology-minded Green Party is enjoying increasing political popularity. Many people share their pacifist and environmentalist ideals, and demonstrations like this against the deployment of cruise and Pershing missiles are proof that they have more support than similar parties in Western Europe. However, by touching the nerve of anti-nuclear sentiment among young West Germans, the Greens have won support for their other policies: less industrial smog, more time to savor life, less time on the production line. The nuclear issue led German youth not only to question authority, but to openly defy it. Until the last decade, clashes on this scale between politically motivated youth and the forces of authority were virtually unknown in post-war Germany. Politically and idealistically, West Germans are becoming prepared to accept the notion of less work, more play. But already, they're rivaled only by the British in their thirst for foreign travel and sunny beaches. Looking beautiful and feeling healthy has become a German obsession, and the fact that most German workers get a generous 5 weeks vacation a year is a major weapon in the employer's armory against the shorter working week. Annually, each German worker puts in just 1,773 hours. Americans put in 130 more, the Japanese 100 on top of that. In the cold rain of a German spring, IG Metall's activists might expect encouragement from fellow workers, but determined opposition from the bosses. Their strategy is carefully planned and run with discipline and precision. Their motto is minimax, the minimum of strike action to create the maximum effect. They started by calling out 13,000 key workers from giant factories like Mahle and Baer, factories which supply essential components to Germany's biggest money earner, the motor industry. The effect was dramatic. Within days, car production was grinding to a halt. Porsche, Mercedes, Opel, Volkswagen, and Audi, some of the biggest names in German industry, were forced to send thousands of workers away on compulsory leave. The direct attack on the motor industry was a calculated policy. Car exports have done more than anything else to stave off the recession in Germany, so the government was bound to take notice. It's also the industry worst hit by unemployment, making its workers sympathetic to IG Metall's campaign. Robot production lines are already threatening jobs in the car industry. Robots like these, working in a British car plant, will have taken over 90% of unskilled car workers' jobs by the end of the decade. Second-generation robots, so secret that cameras have not yet been allowed to film them, are being installed in German car plants. Each machine can do the job of up to 10 workers, so motor industry workers worried by these threats are willing to participate in IG Metall's fight. IG Metall has another card up its sleeve. With a $175 million strike fund, it can afford to finance its members through a lengthy industrial siege. For these men and women, the strike so far hasn't meant too much belt-tightening.
Everybody has money in the bank. Save money, you know. We can go on.
It's IG Metall's strongest weapon that the strikers' determination won't be undermined by individual family worries. Picketing at the Mahler factory in Stuttgart, Karl-Heinz Fischer is getting his first taste of industrial action after 7 years with the company. But for his wife, Margaret, and their 2 children, the strike has brought relatively few hardships. As a foreman, Fischer usually takes home just under $200 a week. Now, $150 a week strike pay covers the bills. At the age of 28, Fischer is perhaps typical of the new generation of Germans. His priorities are clear. Asked what he would do with a 35-hour week, Fischer was adamant. He'd spend more time playing with his children. At Mercedes, as elsewhere, the strike is relatively good-humored. There's been none of the violence that continues in the miners' dispute in Britain or the bitterness that was the hallmark of the steelworkers' dispute in France. Managers and administrative staff drive almost unchallenged through the picket lines of workers whom they still regard as colleagues rather than industrial enemies. But in higher circles, there is alarm and rage. Chancellor Helmut Kohl has publicly denounced the strikers. He called them dumb and stupid. With some opposition MPs openly supporting IG Metall's campaign, the German leader has responded by backing the employer's tactic of locking out non-striking workers without pay. It's a move that many observers say is designed to split the union and has brought the first signs of bitterness to the picket lines. While these strikers enjoy generous financial backing from IG Metall, thousands of other workers are being sent home with no money at all. Herr Stiel, the employer's negotiator, says the hard line is justified.
Big companies like Mercedes-Benz or BMW had to close their doors because of lack of parts. And that, of course, is also very costly. And in order to make it costly for both sides, I think it is our right and it's our duty to impose some of these costs also on the union.
And what are you hoping to do by that? Are you hoping to cripple the union?
We are hoping to make it a little more expensive for the unions, yes.
It'll be not a little more expensive, but considerably more expensive.
That's what we hope.
The situation has remained polarized. Within days of the strike, those locked out workers took to the streets to air their grievances against union and government alike. Support from workers outside the metal and car industries has been limited. 3 weeks into the strike, workers at Frankfurt Airport were asked by their union leaders to stage a one-day sympathy strike with IG Metall. Some planes were delayed. Baggage moved less quickly than usual, but it was hardly the show of solidarity IG Metall had hoped for. 32,000 people are employed at Frankfurt Airport. Only 500 of them answered the strike call, a statistic that employers say suggests barely 1 in 60 workers supports the 35-hour week. Other unions have expressed support for the 35-hour week, most notably IG Druck, the print workers. For a while, newspaper production was disrupted, but even that support seems to be waning. 4 weeks into the strike, the sun may be shining on the Opel picket lines, but IG Metall's campaign is not moving forward. Gate 20 at the Opel Works is left open to allow non-striking staff into the factory. First, they have to pass this poster. A man reveals his naked behind, the picket's gesture of defiance to management and strikebreakers. Despite gathering opposition and faltering support, IG Metall is as determined as ever. Each morning on the picket sites, workers are given official strike cards and allocated their picketing hours. Inside the strike center, pickets are assigned to their picketing posts and given their strike money. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, the union leaders and management continue their negotiations. The union is now proposing a phased reduction in the work week by 1986. Management have rejected this offer, calling it an unacceptable course. In the foreign exchange markets, the usually strong Deutschmark has begun to slip against other currencies. The strike is costing West Germany millions of dollars a day in lost revenue, and economists forecast that already it will have cut the nation's expected growth rate by 1%. The deserted component factories are taking a rapid toll. 30,000 workers are on strike. 30,000 more have been laid off with union pay, and 300,000 workers have been sent home indefinitely with no pay at all. The dispute has had a knock-on effect. German-owned plants in Austria and Belgium say they will soon have to take drastic action. And General Motors in Britain say thousands of staff will have to be laid off if the German strike continues. Industrialists now say mediation may be the only answer, although employers still threaten more layoffs. The country's labor federation, meanwhile, is warning of a general strike in June. And the whole of Europe is keenly watching how the dispute will be resolved.